All right, we are here with a very special guest, Dr. Robyne Hanley-Dafoe. She has a new book out, which is Calm Within the Storm. And this is taking over the world, Robyne. Welcome. You're here in this theater. Look at you. Your face looks huge in this theater. It looks amazing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Shawn. I'm so excited to catch up with you today.
Yeah, I'm just excited to catch up. And I just first want to ask you, how is this virtual book tour going? Because traditionally, you would fly around and then you would chat with people, and now you're just sitting at home doing this virtual book tour. Do you think it's better than actually doing this in person? What are your thoughts?
Shawn, this is like my dream come true. Like, I'm very mindful of the global health pandemic, and my heart goes out to folks who are experiencing all of the big things that are happening right now. And this is absolutely like optimal for me. I find this is like a dream come true, to be able to connect with people all around the world, but also to do it from the comfort and my safety of my house. This has actually been an extraordinary year to be able to do this.
And because are you an introvert or are you an extrovert?
I am so painfully introverted that like groups, even seeing you on a stage is making me feel nervous for you, even though that auditorium is empty. It puts a lot of work. I have to put a lot of work into showing up in large groups. So this is the brightest blessing ever, to be able to do it from my house. And it's interesting because a lot of folks have been asking how I've been able to do all of these virtual events and all of this. Gosh, doing it on your home field, it makes it so much easier to be able to, at the end of the day, actually log off and then just jump into your house and absorb back into the family. It's been like really amazing.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm glad that you're enjoying it and you're doing it all from your home. I know when this whole thing is over, you can't wait to get back in person and get on a stage and hug some people. Like I'm sure.
100%. I love meeting people. I absolutely love it. I really miss that like one-on-one connection. I miss chatting with people in airports. Like I miss all of that in such a big way. But I do count my blessings that I'm still able to make community and create a sense of belonging and get people together on platforms, even in this digital landscape. So trying to make the best of the current landscape for sure.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start this conversation by saying how jealous I am of you, because every time I hear somebody, whether it's read the book or come away from a speaking engagement with you, there's like a lightning bolt that hits them. There is something that is so. You read a lot of content or you go to a lot of presentations, and most people, they go away, they don't remember anything. But with you, they not only remember everything, but they have something switches in their mind. There's a mindset shift, and maybe they weren't thinking about resiliency, but now they are. And they. Why do you think your message has so fundamentally resonated with people around the world so deeply? Like, what do you think it is? Because I see it. I see the people. I see it on social media. There is a shift that happens with every single person.
Oh, well, thank you. It's very kind feedback. You honor me. Okay, I think there is, though, there's a way to unpack this. And as a scholar, of course, Shawn, I'm going to study this and figure out, how are we having these moments? How are we creating these experiences for people? So I think to look at it from a couple different vantage points. Vantage point one, I believe as professionals, if you can find a way to align your passion with your personality, and you can get a really great synergy. Like when your passion, your personality comes together and you can get that in alignment. So your head and heart are operating on the same page and you can just show up as you are, your most authentic self. That's the first one. So the fact that this is me in terms of I'm no different talking to you today than I would be if we were talking at a playground and our kids were playing together. This is how it is. So I think that's part of it. It's that authenticity. I also think it's that I genuinely want to help. I genuinely want people to be well. I want to change the conversation about resiliency. And I believe the fact that I'm bringing a new way to look at resiliency really is contributing to these transformational moments. And I wholeheartedly believe one piece of information or one key idea at the exact time you need to hear it can be transformational. It can have that lasting impact on how you see the world. And I know I've been inspired, whether it be books or speakers or scholars or events, athletes, you name it. They've left that legacy on my learning.
Yeah.
And again, just to be able to contribute a wee bit to that for others, I'm so deeply humbled to be able to do this work. It's not lost on at all.
Well, it's unbelievable. And, I've been blessed to, I've had you on, a bunch of times during my keynote, sort of as a surprise FaceTime, because I think, you create some amazing knowledge bombs for the audience. And I want to steal some of those for myself. It's wild because the last time I saw you was March 2020, and we were at it was like March 8th, 2020. It's like 500 people, speaker spotlight, presentation. That was the last time, one of the last times that I was sort of in person, and probably for you as well. That's the last time I saw you in person. It's interesting to see this pandemic really shift behaviors. And now that we're a year into this, we're in April now, 2021, we're now at a point where everyone is just sick and tired. Like at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a bunch of momentum. The concept of being resilient was really important. But I just feel now that we've gone through these ups and downs during this pandemic, and now we're still at a low point. I mean, in Ontario this afternoon, things are shutting down completely. In Alberta, where I am, we're sort of shutting down as well. People are just sick and tired, and I think your book it just resonates even more today. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally echo what you're saying, that I think the first part of the whole pandemic experience, we got through on adrenaline, right? Like that adrenaline kicked in. It was like call to action, shelter in place, let's get going. So folks were totally engaged. Now, we had some lovely weather in the spring and the summer last year, which kind of helps give people some momentum because the seasons are amazing to help recalibrate. Even winter is a great season to help us recalibrate. We kind of dial in, we do lots of reflection, kind of get cozy, and then we're ready for spring again. What I'm seeing right now, though, is people are so wobbly, Shawn. They're like bone tired. Emotionally, they're tired. Physically, they're tired. And what I'm seeing right now, which is, we kind of call this like my current act of discovery. Like this is what I'm seeing when I'm working with groups. People are hitting what we call compassion fatigue at the highest rates that we've ever seen this before. And Dr. Figley writes about compassion fatigue as the cost of caring. Like we have cared so much about so many things for so long, we're exhausted, we're depleted. Yes. And what I try to let folks know is being depleted doesn't mean you're defeated, okay? Being depleted, it means we need to step up your self-care game like it's a full-time job. Like we have to get you back to okay. And that's a real kind of key message that I talk about a lot in the book, Shawn, about that notion of being okay. There's so much in our culture that is yelling at us that we have to be stronger and better and smarter and fitter, like everything to this kind of top echelon. Well, we have to get there perhaps if that's our choice, but we need to have the foundation of being okay first and foremost. And that's what I'm really trying to encourage people to explore. What does it take for you to get to a place where you can be okay in this moment, not waiting for the pandemic to be over to then get to that place of okay? I want you to be okay during the storm. That's why I wrote that book.
Well, I think the one piece that I really love about the book is that you've turned resiliency into a framework that somebody can use every single day. 100%. And incorporating that into, it applies from an individual perspective as well as from an organizational perspective as well. But how do you actually, like, if I want to be more resilient, what are some like habits? What are some like tactics that I should incorporate to be more resilient? Like, should I watch a TED Talk of you, every, like, how do I incorporate it daily?
Okay, so I think to be able to do, it's a great question, Shawn. Okay, I think first of all, we need to actually kind of like push back on the notion of resiliency, because I think a lot of times folks think about it as a one-off, right? It's like, boom, you got hit in the face, you had a setback, something bad happened. Now you have to kick into that resilient gear, and then you're done with it. And what I've seen in my work, and what I encourage people to think about, is resiliency is daily decisions. Every single day, we are practicing resiliency. We are strengthening our mindset. We're strengthening our emotional health, our emotional wellness. So resiliency isn't just reserved for that one time when you had disappointment or a major life event or a setback. Resiliency needs to be cultivated every single day. And it's what we do in between the crises, in between the big stressors. It is going to set us up for success. And my number one strategy, I always let folks know, and I know a lot of people, there's so much literature on goals, right? Goals, everybody's talking about goals, be more resilient. I really believe goals will get you there once. What you really want is a dialed in system. So what is your system for success? And every person's can look different. There's no one right recipe, but there are some commonalities that we want to see in your system. The biggest one I say to folks all the time, you need a morning system. You have to have a morning system that gets you into the framework that come what may today, you are going to figure it out. You want to establish a baseline of being grounded, focus. You can be hungry for those goals, but you also are setting yourself up that you're ready to take on the day. You're not expecting it to go perfect. You understand that there's going to be ebbs and flows, but whatever you do in the morning, so you can dial in that, kind of like a pre-game workout for our athletes, it's like a pre-day workout for successful people.
Okay, so I want to ask you, I want to know what Robyne's morning looks like. I'm going to imagine Robyne gets up, you go down to you meditate, you're doing a 30-minute yoga session, you write down all your goals and your ideas, you call Barack Obama, and then you get off on your day. Like, what is your morning like?
Okay, so I appreciate your take on my system. So this is what my system, and I'll let you know, I've been doing this every single day during COVID. So I wake up at the same time every day, even on the weekends, because you just want to minimize unsettledness. Our bodies get very unsettled when we change things. So same time, wake up every day. First thing I do is I walk my dogs. I actually spend time with dogs in nature. I love that we talk about nature as vitamin N. Yes. This idea that as soon as you get outside, you have that sense of abundance. So I start that day with those dogs outside, come back in, coffee, listen to a podcast, get myself kind of ready, learn. You want to learn. You want to be in that open mindset before you even start your day. Then I get in my run. Love a good cardio hit in the morning to just kind of get all of that energy dialed in. And what's really cool, the research talks about this idea that the more you preload your self-care, the more fitness and movement practices you get into the morning, you'll actually end your day with more energy. You actually can sustain that vigor throughout the course of the day. So my morning routines, there you go. So it's nature, coffee, and a good workout.
I'm embarrassed because you should see my morning routine. I wake up in the morning, I turn over, I look at Twitter to see if the world burned down, and then I walk over my son, he's crying, and it's just turn on Peppa Pig, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, I'm tired. Anyways, that's my morning. So
it works. It works. It's a season for all of us.
I got to switch it. I definitely got to switch it up, and this book certainly helps. In the book, you talk about this trajectory model. How did you come up with this, by the way? And can you explain a little bit about what that's all about?
Sure. Thanks. This is a great question, Shawn. Okay, so in the fourth part, so the book has 4 parts. And just so folks know, it's not just an academic book. I've taken theory, I've taken practice, like application, and personal story, because I think storytelling is one of the best tools for learning, and have braided those together to create this book. And when we get to the 4th part of the book, we're going to talk about the resiliency trajectory model. Now, where this actually came from was observing how people went through, doesn't even matter what the crisis was, Shawn, you would see people go through like these kind of similar phases. And in psychology, we know about phases. So for example, when we talk about grief, we know that people go through phases. When we go through change, people go through phases. So I was really curious to figure out, what does that look like for resiliency? And before I ever took this model out into the world to explore it, I actually used it with some of my favorite fictional characters who demonstrate resiliency. So take Rocky, take the story of Vince Papale, take all of these stories, and I wanted to see, does it map on that hero or heroine's journey? Because what we see is that we have the event that happens, right? Each and every one of us will have those moments where, it's like this kind of TSN turning point where we know, wow, I didn't see this coming, and now we have to react. And then we would see people go through 3 other distinct phases, and that's what we talk about in the book.
No, I love that. Well, I want to just ask you personally, because you've been on this virtual book tour, obviously. Yes. Getting through this book, I don't know about you, but sitting down and writing a book to me is like an exhausting process. And then you have to go off and market it. Has this book taken everything out of you, or have you enjoyed every part of this process? Or are you like, at this point, you're like, I hope, I've done what I can, let it, let it be. Like, take me through your mindset on this.
Okay, so where I'm at right now is I feel as though that I've put all of the good effort, I've put in the good energy and the good intentions into this book, and now I'm letting her go out on her maiden voyage. So where it goes, where it lands, I did the best I can, right? So that is exactly what I was thinking about in the writing to that moment when I submitted the final draft, Shawn. Like, that is what you're going to get, and I'm letting her go out into the world. Now, in terms of the dauntingness of writing a book, I'm a really big fan of systems, obviously. So I created systems over the last year when I was writing, where when I would travel, Shawn, every community I go to, or country or state or province, I would set the intention that I was going to write 1 chapter while I was there. So I didn't try to write the book all together. I wrote it just story by story. Yeah. And I love the fact that when I look at this book and people will share like, oh, I really love this story, Robyne, or this is my favorite quote, I pause and I think like, oh my gosh, I was sitting in the Edmonton airport at the little Edmonton Eskimo it was like a little cafe sports bar.
Right.
That's who wrote that chapter, right? Like, I remember where I was while I was writing each of those chapters. So for me, it wasn't a daunting task. It was something I really looked forward to.
That's amazing. Two questions. Number one, the audiobook, because let me give you a shout out, because, I don't know about you, but for me, I can't sit down and read a book anymore. I don't know. But I can listen to an audiobook. And
to our recovery. When you skip
I listen to you.
Knowledge will not
it's kind of weird because I'm talking to you now, but I've been listening to you on 1.7 speed on Audible. And I would encourage everybody to get the Audible, because then because it's better than the book, okay? I'll tell you why it's better than the book. Because your voice will be in my mind. That's why you'll hear it over and over. Now, was it difficult to do the audiobook?
Shawn, this is such a good story. So first of all, I worked with an amazing producer. Paul was just phenomenal. But the coolest part is because of COVID, I had to record the audiobook at my house. I recorded it during the Christmas holidays here when I had a break in my calendar. And the best place that we could get that audio sound, as if it was in the studio, was actually in the corner of Jackson's bedroom, kind of underneath his bed. Like, that is where I could get the sound that Paul on the other end loved. So I actually spent part of the Christmas holidays really, like, literally pulled Jackson's room apart, where we had the mattress up against the side of the wall to create sound, like a sound barrier for us. And I took over his room, sat in the corner, and I read it cross-legged in the corner next to his bed. That's how I actually recorded that whole wide book. And
wow.
So when I hear it, I love the fact that I completely commandeered the teenager's room, and he was a good sport. And I had the like LED lights, like all of the 13-year-old boys have. It was glowing. It was pretty awesome. I highly recommend it.
I could just see the kids be like, "Mom, what are you doing? Like in the room on the floor with the mattress up." I want to see a picture of this later. Well,
Yes.
like I said again, you know, get the book, Calm Within the Storm. Get the audiobook, because then Robyne will be in your brain the entire day, and that's a helpful thing. I want to say this again. I think you are one of the most brilliant, most impactful thought leaders and speakers that I have ever seen. And it's just an honor and a privilege to just have a quick chat with you on this virtual book tour. I want to wish you continued success on this book and beyond. I know it's already been a massive success already. And yeah, thanks so much for jumping on this call with me.
Oh, Shawn, so much gratitude right back at you, and so much appreciation. And honestly, I am such a huge fan of you. I love your content. You teach me something every time I tune in. So thank you for being a leader as well, and this opportunity to connect.
Awesome. Well, we'll connect soon. Thanks so much, Robyne.
Okay,
See you
take
later.
good care. Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.